All right. As always, if you have any questions about the topics, that's going to be the best place to start. These are a little bit better when they're kind of fueled by you. I can tend to get long-winded about stuff, but as with the last unit, as with, I think this and disorders, it's going to be most helpful if you know your perspectives, okay? I'd say this a lot, and I know everybody in here is really not the ones that I should be saying this to, which is always the irony of a review session is you all are, you know this. But you want that 5. You don't want the 4 and the 3. You want to make sure that you're getting as many as you can get. So that's why we're here. All right. So let's look at perspectives in therapy. I think that will be a good way to start off. And if you have any kind of questions. Okay. What's the first one you want to talk about? All right, this is probably the best one to always start with, psychoanalytic. Okay, now, I know all year I've been telling you psychoanalytic, psychodynamic, it doesn't matter. Well, now there is going to be a slight difference between psychoanalytic and psychodynamic. Psychoanalytic, let's start with this one first though. Who is our big person with psychoanalytic? All right, it's always going to be Freud, okay? Now, what are the types of therapy that Freud, what was his therapy?
Psychoanalysis.
Psychoanalysis, very good. All right, psychoanalysis, and what is the one word we associate with Freud, psychoanalytic, psychoanalysis?
Unconscious.
All right, it means to get your unconscious thoughts out to the open. Deals with the unconscious, okay? What are the techniques, what are some of the key words of things that we learned about with psychoanalysis? What's the process of psychoanalysis? What did he call it? You lay on the couch and you talk about the first thing that comes to your mind. All right, very good. So through free association, those unconscious, you kind of unravel it almost like you're unwinding like a big ball of yarn or something, right? Or if you're trying to untangle a big knot. That's what psychoanalysis is. It's not quick, it's not cheap, it is a long process to try to dive deep and get at the root of the problem, which Freud believed is buried in your unconscious due to traumatic childhood experiences. That's what it is, okay?
Ms. McKinney Smith, could you please call the front office? Ms. McKinney Smith.
All right, what are the two things that we learned about? What are some of the processes or occurrences that happen during free association?
Resistance.
Yeah, resistance, okay? Resistance is just as it sounds. Resistance is going to be you either avoid or you censor your thoughts. So you may venture, whether it's consciously or unconsciously, it's usually probably a conscious thing. You start to, we're getting into that stuff I don't really want to talk about. But that's where the problem is. So sometimes people, they don't want to talk about it, they're embarrassed, they don't want to really fix it, they're scared. And so what they do is they kind of censor their true thoughts. And so that's called resistance. And so what a therapist would do is identify the resistance, and they want to go right into that resistance because that's where the root of the problem is. What's the other thing? Transference, right. And these are very nice because these are named after exactly what they do. The key word is transfer. This is when, let's say you have issues with your father, you would talk to the therapist as if the therapist was your father. It's very emotional, okay? It's not just some simple role playing. It's like, you're in tears, you're cussing out your dad for whatever he did, and the therapist sits there unbiased and kind of takes on the role to try to get you to work through it. Both are kind of encouraged and seen as positive from the psychoanalyst. Did I miss anything? Psychoanalysis?
Dream analysis?
Dream analysis, yeah, very good. So we could put dream analysis on here for sure. Excellent. Dream analysis or interpretation, that's what it is, okay? So I think on the Quizlet Live, I think the word interpretation was actually on there as a definition. So all of this, a psychoanalyst would interpret your free association, your conversation through your unconscious, And also your dream analysis would be simply an interpretation. And I'm never gonna skip some review, so would you remember the two types of content in the dream analysis? Yep. You got manifest and latent, yep. So this is very applicable. You're not gonna have any of these on my test tomorrow, but this is very good stuff. Remember, manifest is storyline, play-by-play of what happened in your dream. That is then interpreted, and the latent content is the actual interpretation of like, oh, you falling means you're out of control. That dinosaur in your dream is a symbol of extinction or something. You know what I mean? Like, latent is always the interpretation. Thank you for bringing up dream analysis. So let's look at, let me know if there's anything else too. Psychodynamic. Now, I think that this would be a real cheap move by the AP test if they mention, if you had to tell the difference between psychodynamic and psychoanalytic. Okay? Psychodynamic is based off of, it's still based off of Freud. It's still trying to unravel the unconscious, but what it is it focuses on interpersonal relationships. So it's more open to like talking about your interactions with people and things like that. It's also a very minute detail that the therapist sits in front of the person and they talk face to face in psychodynamic therapy. Whereas psychoanalysis, the person is facing that way, laying down, and the psychoanalyst is behind them where they can't see. Okay, so those are kind of the two big differences. And I think that would be a real cheap move if they did talk about that, because I've never seen a question that's focused on psychodynamics. So just, this would be like up there in that like, very low percentage of a question that would be asked, and I think even lower would get it right. So if you're really looking to, you feel like you got to know everything, you want to go in there prepared for anything, then keep that in mind, but I really don't think it'd be worth being upset over if you don't understand the difference between the two. Okay. Let's see. You know what, I'll just go through. Okay, I'm going to erase this so everybody's good with it. Again, this is more just like a guide of, let's go over more so than anything. All right, I'm going to erase. Okay, so there's psychoanalytic. All right, what's another perspective that we definitely went over? Humanistic? Very good. Yeah, I'll probably pick that one too. All right, humanistic. Okay, who is the person in this therapy unit that we can tie to humanistic therapy?
Carl Rogers.
All right, Carl Rogers. And what was the type of therapy that Carl Rogers pioneered?
Client centered.
Very good. Yeah. Client or patient-centered or person-centered. I think client or person-centered. Okay, so I don't know which one they're going to say. So it could be client-centered, it could be it's not going to be client or person. So if you see centered therapy, it's going to be the same thing. There's not a difference between client-centered and person-centered, so it should be good. All right, what are the techniques that he uses in client-centered therapy?
Active listening.
Very good. Active listening. You've got a test question. I'll go over the test here in a minute. Active listening. You're going to have a test question that says, George is restating questions and nodding and making eye contact. Carl Rogers would say he is using what? I mean, I really think you're going to find this test. I don't say this lightly. I don't think I've ever said this about a test. I think you might find this one to be pretty easy, the therapy stuff. Again, I could be totally wrong, but I feel like a lot of these questions aren't tricky. If you know your content, I think you're going to be able to do this. Okay, what else? Active while they're listening, what kind of mindset? how's the vibe of the room? Very positive, right? What do we call that? Yeah, unconditional positive regard. Think of like unconditional love with your parents, right? They love you no matter what. Carl Rogers, you could say you did the worst thing in the world, and he's still gonna, okay. You know, he's not, that's not the place to judge, so he's gonna be very, very nice. And what's the goal of humanistic therapy? Self-actualization is gonna be a good way to do that. To self-actualize. Also, the focus is for the patient to see problems for themselves, see their problems. This is also called like insight therapy too. So patients can have insights about their life. So it's kind of like, you know, insight with problem solving is when you like, it's kind of like that eureka, right? It's kind of that light bulb goes off. Well, during like insight therapy, like humanistic, it's when that patient like, maybe that's why I've been doing this. Maybe this relationship isn't what I need. Maybe I'm the one that's doing it. Oh my gosh, doc, I'm cured, right? Like that's kind of like what humanistic therapy is based on. The therapist isn't going to interpret what you're saying. The therapist is going to guide you and listen and try to get you to realize what the root of your problem is and for you to have that insight to overcome it and to fix it, okay? Like group therapy, like self-help is, this is also self-help. Like Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, any kind of this group, like groups like that. It's all insight therapy. It's all trying to get you, at these self-help groups, there's not a therapist there running the session, okay? Everybody's running it, trying to help each other realize the root of their own problems. And that's very humanistic, okay? Who's a secondary humanistic psychologist we put on here? Who?
Oh,
Maslow. Maslow, self-actualization. Am I missing anything humanistic?
I don't think so.
Good. Okay. Everybody good? I'm gonna erase. Humanistic's a big one. There is another really big one. Yeah, behavioral is going to be huge for this one. In fact, I don't know why, but a lot of my questions are from the behavioral section. I mean, I've got so many on systematic desensitization, aversive conditioning. I mean, I don't know, I just really like to, I've probably got the biggest section is going to be on those, okay? Okay, behavioral, gosh, let's see. I can't remember how to spell the guy's name. Okay, there's not like a face of behavioral therapy, but for exposure? Counter-conditioning. So yeah, exposure and yeah. Why don't I do that with individual ones? What did Joseph Hill do? Was he the fourth? Was he systematic desensitization? Exposure. All right, behavioral. What I'll do is those people are probably not likely to be, probably not going to be asked about them, but I do want to include them. So behavioral is not going to have a face like psychoanalytic and humanistic, but I will put the goal of behavioral. It is to goal is to stop symptoms. It's kind of wordy, but it's the best way I can do it. So the goal of behavioral is to not, so if you're biting your nails, a behavioral psychologist is going to get you to stop biting your nails. They're not going to say, why are you biting your nails? Why do you smoke? Why do you drink? They're not going to care about that. It's very surface level, trying to just get you to stop. So what they're going to do is they're going to try to, the goal of the behaviors is to try to get you to associate something either pleasant or unpleasant with whatever it is they're trying to either get you to do or get you to stop doing. So, and that is called counter conditioning. So that's going to be the first thing. So counter conditioning, don't get confused, don't try to wrap your head around the whole thing. Counter conditioning is basically just undoing classical conditioning. It's trying to replace that conditioned response with something a little bit more preferable. So if you're scared of snakes because, or no, let's not do that. If you're scared of teddy bear because you fell off your bed when you reached for your teddy bear, now every time you see your teddy bear, you're scared of it. Counter conditioning would be like, okay, we got to get that fear out of you, so let's take your teddy bear and let's present it with something very nice so that you like the teddy bear again. That's what counter conditioning is. And that is Mary Cover Jones. She's not high on my list. I'm going to give you my Elite 15, my Fabulous 15, next week that we're going to review to make sure you know your 50. These are like really important ones. She's probably maybe, I don't know, top 25, but couldn't hurt. All right, the types of counter conditioning. We have exposure therapy and aversive conditioning. Exposure is going to have a couple more forms with it, but aversive is simply aversive. I want you to think bad. Okay, so aversive conditioning is going to be the classic example that they're going to give. The big example that they want to talk about is alcohol. You pair alcohol with something that's going to cause nausea. And so the nausea is going to be the unconditioned response to the unconditioned stimulus, okay? So what you do is the conditioned stimulus is going to be like the bell. And so you take the alcohol, which does not make the person sick, and you pair it with something that is going to make them sick. And so what happens is they now associate the alcohol with the nausea. So again, let's say that person's drinking because they have family issues, right? A behavioral psychologist isn't going to try to get to the root of the family issues. It's simply going to say, all right, we can get you to stop drinking alcohol by punching you in the face every time you drink. Okay, aversive conditioning. Yeah?
So could you say that counter conditioning and aversive conditioning are kind of opposite of each other? Since in counter conditioning you replace fear or something with a more pleasant state.
Good.
And then in aversive conditioning the goal is to kind of put fear into you.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to put it. I haven't thought about it before. The only thing is they say it's a type of counter conditioning, so I'm not sure if they are direct opposites, but if that's how you want to think about it, I don't think you will be, I think that'll help more than, I think that could be a really helpful way to look at it, so very nice. I can start using that. All right, exposure therapy is exactly what it sounds. You throw somebody into the mix, okay? It could be, simply taking them to a very high building. The whole point is repeated exposures, the anxiety should go down and down and down and down and down, okay? If somebody has agoraphobia, you take them to the subway, they're going to freak out, have a panic attack, but then you take them back the next day, hopefully their anxiety is a little bit less, right? The extreme version of exposure therapy is, I'm just going to keep going. It's flooding. Flooding is just like, you're scared of swimming, I'm going to take you out in the ocean, I'm going to chuck you in without a life jacket, right? You're scared of cats, I'm going to take you to a cat cafe, and I'm going to throw you in there, and we're going to have cats all over, okay? That's my understanding of the difference between exposure versus flooding is that it is just way more intense. And that's always kind of got me by. I've never had to differentiate between the two. It would always be either exposure or flooding. Okay, the biggie, systematic desensitization. Probably so. Okay, this is the big one. This is where the anxiety hierarchy comes in. And with anxiety hierarchies, I didn't mention this in class, so you get a little leg up right here. The first step to creating, remember the anxiety hierarchy is like, all right, Kendall's afraid of Rubik's Cubes, right? If I'm going to systematically desensitize her to not being scared of a Rubik's Cube, I'm not just gonna say, bam, there it is, right? Because that would be flooding or exposure therapy, right? No, what we gotta do is we have to sit down with a piece of paper and I have to say, okay, Kendall, write down on a list of 1 to 10, give me your scenarios of what triggers a low level of anxiety with Rubik's Cube versus high. So she might say, thinking about a Rubik's Cube scares me. And then that'd be the lowest, and then the highest would be holding one, right? But before that, and I forgot because I was looking at your test, we have to master a set of relaxation techniques. So the very first thing you want to do when creating an anxiety hierarchy is when you are experiencing the anxiety, you have to get rid of the anxiety. So breathing, relaxation techniques. So I'll say, okay, Kendall, think about the Rubik's Cube. What's your anxiety level? And you might say 5. So I'm going to say, okay, use those relaxation, those breathing techniques until your anxiety goes down to 0. Okay, it's down to 0. And I'm going to say, think about it again. And then you kind of go through it. And then eventually you work your way down the list. And that hierarchy looks like this. Kind of like this. Okay, so if you were scared of flying, you would talk about flying would be the first thing, and then what would trigger the most anxiety is flying overseas for 10 hours. I think that would, it's pretty normal to be frightened of that, am I right? Anybody ever done that? Really? Where'd you go?
India.
How far is that?
Well, there's connection flights, but the longest one is 12 hours.
Wow.
Jesus. It was really boring.
Did you get to do the lay down seats at least? It's like a bed almost. Oh wow.
And I had the bad seats. So.
You had the what?
Like, I was sitting in between 2 other people.
Oh wow. 12 hours? Yeah, they have some now where you like lay down and you have a TV and movies and stuff.
Well,
So
I
my
had a
fiance went-
TV,
Well, you
but-
did.
You had a TV? Okay, well, yeah. Still like. Yeah. Okay, again, I'm gonna put a star by this because I don't know why, but I've got I'm gonna get a lot of questions about systematic desensitization. Ooh, one more thing. The goal of behavioral. What type of disorder does it treat? What type is it, what do I want to say? It's most effective in treating, Hilda? It's okay. Yeah, phobias. So if you're having family issues, you're probably not going to go, you might not see a behavioral psychologist, okay? You may go see a cognitive behavioral psychologist, but a behavioral psychologist, again, it's all about surface level stuff. So if you're scared of duct tape, we're not going to try to figure out why Lewis is terrified of duct tape. We don't want to dive deep, okay? I'm just going to smack him a bit. No, I'm not going to do that. I got to get you not scared of duct tape. We will desensitize you to duct tape. Well, then we'll eventually tie you up with it, and we'll master some relaxation techniques, and you'll be good, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Just kidding. Am I missing anything with behavioral? This is more review stuff, but there's, oh, I know one. Okay. Token economy. So there is operant conditioning, but I'm not going to mention that because that's kind of like a review. Token economy. They like to ask about token economy. Right? Think of tokens, think of money, right? You're in an environment where you're positive, pro-social, wanted behavior is rewarded with tokens that you can turn in for privileges or treats, okay? If you went into the SAC classrooms here at school, y'all know what the SAC students? So they would probably, their classroom, you could probably get some good examples of token economy, okay? If they clean up the class or something like that, they can get rewarded in privileges when they, it's a little bit more than in a normal classroom. The token economy is really effective with anything with that kind of environment. Yeah.
Wouldn't that be like better for little kids though, rather than?
It's much more effective with little kids, all right? So if you were sucking your thumb when you were little, we'll give you stickers if you don't suck your thumb, right? If you get 5 stickers, you get to go out to eat, right? That's a token economy. Yeah, you're absolutely right. So high school, there's not many token economies in class, right? But when you're in middle school or elementary school, every teacher has their own like grab bag of stuff, right? So yeah, very good. I remember when I was in elementary school, we had the popsicle sticks, and you move, or no, we had cards. You had to change your card, right? Green was good, yellow, and then red, I don't think I changed my card once. I always felt bad about it because mine was like pristine, it was like perfect. Like I always wanted to like change my card, but I never acted up in school. But if you got caught doing something good, they would give you a purple, which was a purple colored popsicle stick, and they would put it in your card thing, and you got to grab out of her reward thing. And so what we would do is we got smart, we learned how to game the system, right? We would set up a fake good deed. So let's say Kendall would not be like, all right, Kendall, I'm gonna walk by your desk, you knock over your pencil box, and I'm gonna pick it up and be like, here you go, and then get a purple, right? It actually worked.
Wow.
Yeah. Yes?
The funny thing is, remember when we said the thing about like we don't know what good and bad was? When I had to I didn't know this was a wrong thing to do. It was like, oh, like if I did something, take out a card. Like I was like, okay, I'm gonna take out the one in the back. Also, I took out a card, but still green. Like I remember like seeing that kid like, wow, that's smart. Like someone else taught me that. Whoa.
Did it work?
Yeah, it worked. Like it only didn't work till I ran out of cards. Like, oh wait.
I guess that teacher was a paying attention.
I believe you can tell me.
You're fine. I'll see you tomorrow. Okay. I'm gonna erase this. Let's do, how are we doing on time? Oh, we're good. Cognitive therapy. This is where it can get a little. So what we can do is we'll do cognitive and then cognitive behavioral, and then we'll talk about that. Okay. Cognitive. Okay. You got 2 people with this that you can think of. Actually, there's really only one for cognitive. His name's Aaron Beck. Okay, he's going to be big for what he thought of were cognitive distortions, which are untrue thoughts about yourself. So remember, cognitive psychology is all about studying mental processes. Cognitive therapy is all about changing your mental processes to feeling better about something. So this is big for depression. All right. If your cognitive mental processes are that you're worthless, that you're dumb, that you can't do anything, then you are going to feel depressed, right? So it's all about intervening. So a cognitive psychologist would be very interested in your thought processes. Okay, I need this as a cheat sheet because I was going to forget. Okay, so Aaron Beck said, you think that you can never be happy, and you associate minor failings as the cause of your depression. All right, so if you fail your test, if you didn't get your license, or if you got yelled at work, if you got taken off the schedule, if you got cut from the team, all that kind of stuff, that you would attribute that as causes for your depression. So what that is Aaron Beck would say, that's not what's causing your depression. So you would have to, he would call those your cognitive distortions. So to distort something means to blow it out of proportion. It's not accurate if it's distorted. So these things, these minor failings, are not. If you attribute those to your depression, then you have to change how you feel about these things. So what did you do?
Okay.
It's a ghost.
It is a ghost. I'm gonna open that door, that's gonna get hot. All right, stress inoculation training. I don't know if this is gonna be on, I've kind of skipped over this. I guess this is worth mentioning. This is simply, when you're in a stressful environment, you just kind of like, 'cause a lot of this stuff, it's hard for me to differentiate between it all, right? Like Aaron Beck's cognitive distortion, stress inoculation, rational emotive. I mean, it's all really the same thing. You're changing the way you think about a scenario. So just be careful when you're looking at the test questions. Are they asking about Aaron Beck? Are they asking specifically about rational emotive therapy, stress inoculation training? And just try to make your best guess. I think that they won't trick you. I don't think they're going to pick the right answer between cognitive distortions, rational emotive, and stress inoculation. I don't think they would do that. So as long as you pick the answer choice that deals the most with cognitive therapy, which is changing your thought process, I think you're going to be fine with just about any of these, okay? But this is just restructuring your thinking in stressful situations. It can be a little cheesy, but this is a good one to say before your exam. Maybe we'll do this before your AP exam. Okay, so we will pair cognitive with behavioral. Okay, and here's the trick with this. This is, let me see what the question says. All right, so this is going to pair. So this would be somebody that has no meaningful relationships, which is the behavioral, paired with a belief that so it's taking cognitive and pairing it with behavioral. So you have no meaningful relationships, meaning the way you interact with people is damaged, right? It's no good. You don't have any friends because you don't just interact well with people, okay? Pair that with now your belief that you don't have meaningful relationships is that you just lack the interpersonal skills. You have that thought in your head that says, I'm just no good at interacting with you. I can't do it. That is those cognitive distortions. So if you see a question that talks about interacting with people, there's something wrong. And then the belief that you don't have the skills to interact with people is going to be cognitive behavioral. That's what a cognitive behavioral psychologist would do, okay? It's trying to modify behavior and also reverse the self-defeated thinking. So we're trying to alter the way people act and also the way they think, which makes sense. Now, big one that messed everybody up last year. Rational emotive behavior. Or REBT. This is, anybody remember his name? No? Albert Ellis. He is on the Fabulous 15. So if somebody had a Barron's book last year and they used the resource at the back of the Barron's book, they would not have been fooled by this question this year. Albert Ellis. So what this is going to do, this confronts dysfunctional thoughts. So for instance, if you have a fear, like let's say you don't want to get up and speak in front of the class. Let's say you all, I'm sure someone in here, especially in both of my AP classes, I guarantee you there's a valedictorian in both, or a salutatorian for sure. What do they do at graduation?
Big.
Big speech, right? So if somebody is in their mind, they built up maybe that they're going to mess up and then everybody's going to laugh at them, right? And they don't want to get the speech. A rational emotive behavioral therapist would say, well, let's look at that irrational thought. It's irrational, right? You're probably, look at it, you're the valedictorian, you're the salutatorian. You don't really mess up like that, right? You got where you're at by being really good at what you do, okay? So you're probably not going to mess up. And even if you do mess up, you're going to be the only one that notices because you're probably not going to just like say something stupid. You're probably going to forget a word or you might stutter for a second, but people aren't going to remember it. And if they do remember it, big deal. It's not the worst thing that could ever happen. So that's what Albert Ellis would do, is try to get you to go through these situations and realize, hey, it's not that big a deal. Your mind, you always blow everything up to be way out of proportion and a way bigger deal than how it's really going to be. Because I'm sure, I've got double the time on this earth as you all, but I've realized my biggest problems are never as big as what I make them out to be in my head. In my head, I've made them into this insurmountable dark cloud that I can never confront, and then it's truly like the Wizard of Oz. When I'm finally ready to confront and I look behind the curtain, it's just some like tiny little, so, yeah.
So it's like, is RABT like successful? The thing about like telling somebody like it's not that big a deal and stuff like that.
I think it's all about how you do it. I don't think it's as simple as just being like, don't worry about it. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's our intentions when we tell you not to worry about it. And when you hear somebody say it'll work out one way or the other, that's not very helpful. Even though the people mean it and they're trying to, I'm telling you, for real, it will work out one way or the other. I know, it will, I promise, I know how you're feeling. But that doesn't help you.
Yeah, so it's like
I'm okay with it because I know, but
like if a friend's like going through a breakup or something, like it's not in the world. Like you're gonna move on, but still, it's like
it can be
like,
hard.
It's like they know, but yeah.
Ooh, that's tough. Yeah, I'm curious. I don't know what the success rate is on this, but I think that's a good example, though, Jonathan, for sure. Okay, group therapy, big thing. Clients benefit from knowing that others have similar problems. We're not really going to put this into a category. It's going to be kind of like its own. It doesn't really have a perspective. I'm going to do one more thing with the perspectives, and then we're going to jump to the makeup of the test. So all right, what's the last one? What do you think it is? It's not evolutionary. Yeah, very good. Biological. Okay, this is also going to be your biomedical therapies. Okay, so biological, we don't have a psychologist for this. This is going to balance chemicals. Okay, they can do this by medication or surgery or electroconvulsive shock therapy. Okay. Family therapy treats the family as a system. Da, 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 da. This is all your books, just extra stuff. I mean, it's good, but it's like, come on, we don't have time for this. I don't think you'll see anything on EMDR. There was a tiny blurb in your book about it. I don't really understand it. The big thing is that they always say it doesn't hold up under scientific testing, but it's all about getting the eyes to move back and forth and to get. I don't really understand. I've never had to like dive into it a little bit. Can you tell me a little bit more about it?
Oh, I
Or-
was gonna say, it's like, wouldn't lobotomy be under biological or like biomedical therapy?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so this can be done through medication, surgery, which surgery is lobotomy. That is, or sorry, a lobotomy is surgery. The ECT. So I wouldn't worry too much about EDMR. If they put that on there, you can come back next year and you can flip out. But there's just not a big chunk in your book about it. There's really not a lot. The only thing that I always know is it's almost considered to be like a pseudoscience. Like there's not a lot of people that really stand behind it and believe in it. But I guess it's meant to reprocess traumatic memories. waving, I don't, yeah. You could, yeah, I bet there's some great YouTube videos on it, for sure. Maybe we can look, check out some of those. Oh, all right, ooh, big one, okay. Light exposure. I guess this would kind of fall under biological because you're trying to adjust your serotonin levels. So, I don't think it's called seasonal affective disorder anymore, but you should be able, I don't know. The big thing is the therapy, light exposure therapy, okay? Light, sun equals serotonin. So what disorder does this treat? It's depression, right? So you treat it with lights. Okay, you literally set up lights and somebody shines the light in the dark while they're eating breakfast, getting ready for school or work, and it's supposed to kind of curb their depression. Okay. This is a pretty popular one, so I would be pretty confident to see something about light exposure therapy. Because it's kind of wild. The only one that I've seen is a community psychologist tries to treat disorders by designing programs to prevent disorders. You'll have a couple questions on, maybe just one or two about community psychologists, but again, it's all about preventing. Okay, so let's start a community program for kids who are orphaned, right? Let's go ahead and let's intervene early so they don't grow up and they don't fall into a depression because maybe they don't have they didn't maybe they still live at like a community house or something like that. So let's try to prevent these things from happening. Again, that's just an example. Here are the three that I was just talking about with biomedical. Okay, drug treatment, surgery, electric shock. Okay, don't forget, it's always treating whatever follows the anti. So an antipsychotic drug, what's the only psychotic disorder we talked about? Schizophrenia, right? So schizophrenia would be treated by antipsychotics. There's one question on here, I'm gonna go ahead and tell you, I said this in class, but nobody's gonna believe me. Neuroleptics is the answer choice. You may get it by process elimination. I probably could, perhaps, but that would trip me up. I would have to take a guess, because until I saw that test question, I did not know what a neuroleptic was. It's another name for an antipsychotic. Again, we can try our best to get all these, but I mean, you're gonna have to be okay with maybe not knowing every single one on that test. And I know some of you are gonna want to get all of them. Okay? I wouldn't, I don't have any questions that specifically refer to the names of the antipsychotics. I would not worry about classical versus atypical antipsychotics. I would just know that antipsychotics treat schizophrenia. Okay, and the big thing is schizophrenia is the overactive dopamine receptors. So that dopamine hypothesis that we learned about. So what the antipsychotics do is they actually they'll block the receptor sites of the receiving neuron as an antagonist so the dopamine can't get through. So that's kind of what's happening on a neurological level. Okay. Anti-anxiety treats what disorder? Anxiety. Maybe some depression at sometimes, but typically it's going to treat anxiety. All right, the one that I'm probably going to ask about though is the SSRI, the selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. It's a fancy name, y'all know what it does. Reuptake is when the sending neuron sucks the neurotransmitters back up. People that are depressed due to low levels of serotonin, their serotonin gets sucked up before it stimulates the next neuron. So what these SSRIs do is they come down and they block the sending neuron. So they block reuptake from happening so the serotonin will latch on to the next neuron and they will stimulate it, therefore eventually reaching the brain and feeling happy or improving the mood. And it doesn't stop reuptake, it just slows it. Okay? Now, this one I have seen, you're going to have one of these three on the test with the little trademark name. I'm not going to tell you which one, but you will have to recognize it's not going to say an antidepressant, it's going to say such and such, and you're going to have to know it's an SSRI. Okay? Lithium is the one I swore would be on the test last year, and someone came up and said, Mr. Conway, lithium was not on that test. bipolar disorder is used to treat lithium, but it will be on your test tomorrow. Will be maybe 1 or 2 questions for sure. And I think that's going to be it, ladies and gentlemen. We've got about 15 minutes to go over test structure of it. Oh, sorry, I forgot one more. I haven't seen, I know this popped up in your Quizlet Live, the transcranial magnetic stimulation. It treats depression, but the big one they're going to ask about, I can't believe I forgot, is ECT, okay? It looks bad, it looks painful, it looks like something out of a horror movie, but it treats depression. It is a it's kind of like a biological way. This falls under the biological perspective to treat depression, ECT. Cause many seizures in the brain, and it is quite effective. Now, let's look at your test. Any questions about what we've done over? Did I miss anything? I'm human. Feel free to